Fremont SX lines torn down in 46 days. 46 days to gut two production lines shows Fremont has no backup plan for sedan output. Every tooling supplier now shifts drawings from chassis rails to actuator housings. Independent body shops lose their steady stream of OEM panels and will pay premiums for remaining stock by Q4 next year. That scarcity hits resale values for current S and X owners first. Service centers will see repair delays stretch into weeks by mid-2027. Optimus suppliers ramp to 1,000 units per week. 1,000 units a week by next fall means suppliers must tool up for volumes that dwarf current vehicle output. Contract manufacturers who signed on for low-volume prototypes now face retooling costs they didn't model. Watch the margin squeeze hit first-tier vendors once Tesla enforces weekly delivery penalties in the new agreements. Smaller firms will consolidate or drop out, leaving only scaled players who can absorb the Capex. Expect consolidation talks to accelerate among robotics supply chain players over the coming quarters. Giga Texas Optimus factory expands south, adding that southern wing now locks in Texas as the sole high-volume site before any other region gets a look in. Construction crews already clearing adjacent lots tell you the footprint will double again before 2027. This moves the bottleneck from factory walls to the regional power grid and highway access for parts inbound. Grid operators in the area must accelerate substation upgrades or risk production throttling by late 2026. Road planners face similar pressure on trucking routes feeding the site. Tesla calls 2026 biggest investment year since Model 3. The $25 billion figure resets the baseline for every autonomy competitor's board meeting. A dedicated $3 billion semiconductor fab accelerates in-house silicon schedules that suppliers thought were years away. This forces ARM and TSMC to decide whether to bid on custom nodes or lose the volume to Tesla's internal line. Smaller design houses without similar capital commitments will fall further behind on process technology roadmaps. Expect those houses to seek acquisition interest from larger foundries by Q2 2027. Model Y tops China sales charts in June. Topping the overall chart in China means BYD and VW now allocate extra marketing budgets just to defend second place. Local dealers for those brands face pressure to match Tesla's financing terms or watch floor traffic move elsewhere. Regulators may scrutinize the price positioning more closely once foreign brands lose share in consecutive quarters. This dynamic accelerates the shift toward direct sales models among legacy automakers in the region. Expect new retail format announcements from two volume players before year-end. New Jersey bill mandates radar for robotaxis. Writing hardware requirements into traffic law flips the usual safety argument on its head. Tesla must now decide whether to absorb radar costs across the fleet or forfeit New Jersey registrations starting next year. Either path gives Waymo and Cruise the regulatory moat they need to lock in the Philadelphia to Boston corridor before vision-only stacks clear their own state hearings. The next move is already showing up in supplier RFPs. Analysts flag delayed AI revenue for Tesla. Revenue forecasts miss the actual bottleneck, which is how quickly factory output can absorb the first 1,000 units without crashing margins. This pushes any meaningful robotaxi contribution past 2027 and forces analysts to anchor Tesla's valuation to vehicle margins alone for 2 more cycles. Legacy suppliers now gain breathing room to pitch hybrid autonomy packages to those same fleet buyers. FSD V14 Lite rolls out to HW3 vehicles. HW3 cars receiving the Lite build tells owners the hardware cutoff may be softer than the last 2 updates implied. The rollout forces every competing autonomy team using older silicon to accelerate their own over-the-air narrative or risk losing the remaining fleet sales that still compare FSD capability head-to-head on range and price. Expect the next regulatory filing from Mobileye to reference this exact deployment. Musk predicts Optimus as biggest product ever. The biggest product claim lands less on unit volume and more on the recurring revenue model that would require selling compute cycles instead of finished robots. This forces Boston Dynamics and Figure to either adopt usage-based contracts or lose the warehouse automation deals that are already in late-stage negotiation. Pricing sheets from those pilots will show the shift inside 6 quarters. Optimus Gen 3 units training in factory. Over 1,000 units running inside Fremont already compresses the iteration cycle from months to weeks because every variance is captured on the same line that will build the next batch. This forces Figure and Apptronic to lock in their own factory data deals within the next 2 quarters or accept a permanent gap in edge case coverage when they reach volume. The next term sheet will reveal who signed first. Unsupervised robotaxi active in Texas cities. Texas regulators just greenlit the first fully unsupervised operations, but the real constraint is remote oversight capacity during peak hours. Any spike in interventions could still require added staff. By Q2 2027, this operational lead should compel Waymo to remove safety drivers from its Austin fleet or accept permanent second-place status in the Texas market. Elon boosts Tesla voting stake to 20%. Reaching 20% voting control gives Musk the margin he needs to approve major Capex plans without courting additional shareholder pushback. The timing lines up with the 2026 autonomy budget cycle. Institutional holders must now either align on the next compensation package or risk a drawn-out proxy battle that delays Optimus factory funding into 2028. Tesla records strongest Japan sales month. Corporate fleets drove most of the June jump, a segment where supercharger access beats dealer relationships. That buyer mix typically leads to stronger word of mouth among private owners within a year. Toyota now has to expand its own fast-charging partnerships or watch Tesla pull ahead in the commercial van space by early 2027. Cybercab production prep at Giga Texas, allocating floor space that lets Cybercab production share labor with existing lines removes the usual retooling bottleneck. This approach ties robotaxi output directly to Model Y demand fluctuations. Battery suppliers must now qualify new cell formats for the shared process or lose volume to competitors who can adapt faster. Tesla commits $25 billion plus Capex to autonomy in 2026, putting the bulk of the 2026 budget into AI clusters rather than assembly plants means the return depends on regulatory approval for unsupervised miles arriving on schedule. Miss that window, and the depreciation schedule hits earnings before meaningful robotaxi revenue appears. Legacy automakers will either license the resulting FSD capability or abandon their own autonomy programs by 2028. Energy storage bookings hit multi-billion levels. Power providers that signed these orders now face a permitting race that most analysts are ignoring. Interconnection queues in major markets have lengthened to 18 months with little relief in sight. Revenue from the first batch of megapacks will slip into 2027 for anyone without pre-approved sites. Banks are tightening terms for non-Tesla projects because they see the volume advantage locking in future deals. That dynamic will force at least 2 developers to cancel competing battery programs by year-end. Fremont Optimus line targets late July start. Production from the converted line stays inside Tesla walls through the end of next year. External sales of Optimus therefore start no earlier than 2027. Figure and Agility will use that window to close their first 3 enterprise pilots without a cheaper alternative on the table. Component lead times are already stretching because vendors expect the real ramp only after validation completes. The delay also means any design changes from early testing get incorporated before volume production begins. Optimus supply chain preps for 2,500 weekly. Suppliers must now choose between dedicated production cells and losing the work to competitors who already run high-volume lines. Actuator prices across the industry will fall once those cells come online in 2027. Smaller vendors face the choice of exiting or selling out to larger groups that can meet the cadence. The first consolidation moves will appear in supplier contracts signed before March. Expect 2 acquisitions in the precision motor space within the next 9 months. Tesla leads imports in South Korea H1 2026. Hyundai must now speed up its American factory builds to protect overall EV volumes. The margin squeeze on their Korean exports will show up in third-quarter numbers. Dealers in Seoul are requesting extra allocations of hybrid models to offset the registration slide. That shift will slow their battery electric development timeline by at least one full model year across multiple platforms. The knock-on effect hits their U.S. sales team first as inventory priorities change. Optimus factory larger than previously reported. Parallel lines become feasible with the added square footage at both sites. That setup reduces the cost variance between variants to under 10%. Every other robotics firm still works from single-line retrofits and will carry higher unit costs into their first sales. Capex stays flat in the next update because the extra space came from reallocated factory floor rather than new builds. The advantage shows up first in the pricing offered to pilot customers next summer.